From the seaside studios of PeacockOriginals.com, we bring you a true story of a bigger-than-life character, his biggest fan, and a bittersweet ending. Augustus Rainbow by Everett Peacock. I saw this picture on Facebook and someone was asking if anyone knew the hobo who had photobombed a tourist family picture just outside of the Lahaina Yacht Club. The comment section was rapidly filling up with derogatory and rude comments about the homeless situation in town and how emboldened some of them were becoming. Emboldened. Now that's probably the perfect word, but I understand it here only as a compliment. For, yes, I do indeed know who this hobo is, and believe me, he's not homeless and he's not a derelict. He's Augustus Rainbow. I first met him in Baja California, at a bar, of course. It was at Tihuaca's Tiki Bar y Parrilla, and I was working off a debt by mixing margaritas for the gringos and gringas. Best job I ever had. But that's another story. This one is about my old friend. He was surrounded by sun-kissed blonde surfer girls from San Diego, but a beautiful Mexican lady was sitting on his lap, while he told a story about abandoning his sinking sailboat and riding with a pod of dolphins to safety. He had just made it to shore only last week. It was 1977. Over the next few nights, as he entertained a growing entourage of adventure-hungry fans, I came to understand he was an almost famous treehouse builder from Argentina. Something to do with the political situation there had forced him onto a freighter headed to Bolivia one night. Politics apparently included such things as bar tabs and lonely widows. I don't judge. I know all about bar tabs. So, many years later, in Papeete, Tahiti, having just exited immigration and customs after arriving on a Hawaiian Airlines flight from Honolulu, I saw him again. In the usual way, surrounded by adoring women as he moved toward the departure gate where my flight had just parked. He saw me waving my New York Yankees ball cap and peeled himself away from the ladies to give me a big hug. "I still owe a bar tab at Tihuaca's," he whispered. The women were slowly encircling both of us, distracting me from answering. As hands pulled him gently away from me, he smiled. "No worries," I assured him. "That place burned down years ago." He took a moment to acknowledge the ladies, then stopped and saluted me. "We shall meet at least once more, my friend." The porters were loading all of his broken boards from an epic surf session at Teahupo'o. It was 1988. I didn't cross paths with him again until a fateful day at Tiger's Head in Madagascar. I had a few days off from a State Department gig and decided to do a camel safari to the beach to catch some waves. The surf wasn't perfect that day, but the crowd was limited to me, my guide, and apparently the local tiger sharks who were busy chasing sea turtles. I should have known better. But hey, I've never been accused of being smart, just lucky. Another group of camels arrived over the dunes carrying surfboards and several European guys. I kind of liked the idea of more people in the water as it would increase my odds of not being confused with a turtle. 8 guys were soon in the lineup when one of them yelled, "Peacock!" "Augustus?" I asked. He looked different. Maybe it was the hair. There was less. Maybe it was his tan. There was more. But his voice was spot on. He started paddling over when they hit him. 2 tigers lifted him up into the air when they came from beneath him at full speed. He tumbled into the air, cursing and flapping his arms in some noble attempt to fly away from the upcoming next few seconds of horror. Gravity wasn't having it, though. Absolutely everyone there made for the shore, leaving him to flounder except myself. I was pissed. Sharks do scare me, but fear usually makes me angry, and here they were, messing with my human-centric reality. I paddled over quickly, got a hold of him right when the biggest set of the day rolled through. That alone probably saved him, and maybe me. We got tossed and tumbled all the way to the shallows where everyone was cheering us on, alleviating their guilt if we actually survived. We did. He was missing everything from below his right knee down. A surf leash tourniquet stopped the bleeding but did nothing for the cursing. I did learn several new words that day. The next challenge was getting him up on a camel for the 2-hour trek back to a jeep, and then another 3 hours to the closest town. Silly me, I didn't realize who I was dealing with. By the time we had the bleeding slowed, a helicopter showed up, his contracted Israeli extraction team. Riding along with him, his only complaint was that he had also lost a gold toe ring. A wonderful Egyptian lady had just given him as a parting gift. Your leg, though. No worries, Peacock. I'll make a better one. But damn, that toe ring was... The onboard doctor had just pushed the plunger on something they put into the IV, and I didn't talk to him again for years. It was 2002. And now, this picture. It must have been the same day in Lahaina that I had seen him, the first since Madagascar. He was wearing the same clothes and had the same wild hair. There was more of it now somehow. I didn't ask. Actually, after a few seconds of pleasantries, I couldn't get a word in. He began to talk. And talk. I learned a lot before he disappeared again, later that day. He was the father of multiple children via multiple women. Proud he was to have added to the gene pool so prodigiously. Since Madagascar, he had inherited close to €1 million from an ex-lover and invested it entirely in a spam factory in Kansas. He only drinks fresh squeezed vodka and speaks 3 or 4 languages if you count chimpanzee and bull African elephant. I have never been able to place his accent, but am guessing it is somewhere between Creole, Eskimo, and French. He brags that he never learned how to drive an automatic transmission car. He can code 1,000,000 lines of AI computer language with one eye closed, but the other one working double time. The shark that took his foot washed up dead months later, and he actually got his toe ring back and wears it on his artificial foot. He had a wooden leg for the longest time, but in 2016, he had a robotic one installed and made the doctor sign a non-disclosure contract. I can't tell which is fake, other than knowing it was his right leg. I suspect he has slipped a little into the fantasy world he carries around in his head now. Last time I heard anything about him, he was said to be standing on the bow of the Lahaina to Lanai passenger ferry screaming out, "Top of the world." Augustus, my mentor, you've still got adventures left in you, dude. Aloha. It was 2022, and I haven't seen or heard of him since. More great content available at peacockoriginals.com.